The internet didn't just gasp last night, it froze. Screens flickered, timelines stalled, and comment sections erupted into chaos the moment whispers began spreading that Tasha K had allegedly dropped a flash drive so explosive it could shatter reputations in real time. And at the center of this digital firestorm? None other than Rasheeda, a name fans thought they knew, until now. You're not imagining it. This wasn't just another late-night livestream or messy rant destined to trend for a few hours before fading away. This was different. This was whispered about in group chats, dissected on reaction channels, and replayed frame by frame as fans tried to make sense of what they were seeing, and what they were hearing. A flash drive, a courtroom, and a chain of secrets that, once unleashed, couldn't be put back. Sources claim the moment the flash drive surfaced, emotions ran high. Faces reportedly went pale, voices shook, and what was supposed to stay sealed behind closed doors suddenly spilled into the public eye. Fans are shocked, not just by what was allegedly revealed, but by who was sitting silently as it all unfolded. Some say the silence spoke louder than any denial ever could. Online, the reactions came fast and brutal. Loyal supporters felt betrayed, skeptics felt vindicated, and neutral viewers? They leaned closer to their screens, realizing they might be witnessing the beginning of a reality TV-level unraveling, the kind that leaves families divided and friendships permanently fractured. Was this a calculated move years in the making, or a moment that spiraled out of control? Behind the scenes, whispers of courtroom tension began to surface. Raised voices, heated exchanges, a stunned reaction when the contents of that flash drive allegedly came into question. Some insiders say once the name Rasheeda echoed through the room, there was no turning back. Others insist what followed was pure chaos, accusations flying, alliances shifting, and trust evaporating in seconds. And here's the part that has everyone talking. If even half of what's being hinted at is true, this story isn't just about a flash drive. It's about power, image, and the price of keeping secrets in an era where nothing stays hidden for long. Fans are asking the same question over and over again: who knew what, and when? So before you scroll away, understand this. What you're about to hear isn't a neat story with clean answers. It's messy, it's dramatic, and it's only just beginning. Because when receipts allegedly meet the courtroom, and the internet gets involved, there are no winners, only survivors. The room felt thick with tension, the kind that sticks to your skin and makes every breath feel louder than it should, and nobody watching from home could quite explain why their chest felt tight as the livestream buffer wheel spun one last time before freezing on her face, because in that moment Tasha K wasn't smirking, she wasn't laughing, she wasn't even talking. She was staring straight into the camera like she knew something the rest of the world didn't yet understand, and when she finally leaned forward and whispered that a single flash drive had changed everything, fans are shocked at how quickly the mood shifted from entertainment to unease. Like everyone had collectively realized they were about to witness a line being crossed that could never be uncrossed. She said she hadn't planned for it to come out this way, that some things were meant to stay locked away, but when the court got involved and the internet started digging, secrets don't stay buried for long, and that's when she dropped the name that sent shockwaves through timelines everywhere, because nobody expected Rasheeda to be pulled into a storm this volatile. Not with her carefully curated image, not with her reputation as someone who always played smart and stayed 10 steps ahead of the mess. Emotions ran high instantly, and you could feel it in the way comment sections exploded, some people screaming betrayal, others calling it lies, and a few sitting quietly, saying nothing at all, which somehow felt even louder. According to what was being whispered behind the scenes, this all started weeks earlier in a courthouse hallway where cameras weren't allowed but egos were fully on display, and sources claim Tasha arrived calm, almost too calm, holding a plain black flash drive like it was nothing more than a house key, while Rasheeda, surrounded by lawyers and familiar faces, reportedly avoided eye contact. Her jaw clenched so tight it looked like one wrong question could make everything snap. Fans watching later would swear they saw confidence on one side and calculation on the other, and the family was left divided before a single word was even officially spoken on record. Inside that courtroom, the air allegedly shifted the moment the flash drive was mentioned, because everyone knew digital evidence doesn't lie, but it can destroy, and Tasha's voice, described by insiders as steady but sharp, echoed as she insisted she wasn't there to smear anyone, she was there because the truth had been dragged into the light whether anyone liked it or not. Rasheeda's camp reportedly pushed back hard, calling it a stunt, calling it desperation, calling it anything but what it threatened to be, and that's when the first heated argument broke out, hushed but intense, lawyers leaning in, hands waving, faces flushed, as if trying to physically shove the narrative back into place. Outside, fans gathered like it was a premiere instead of a legal proceeding, phones up, eyes wide, whispering theories about what could possibly be on that flash drive, some claiming it was messages, others swearing it was audio, and a few insisting it was proof of something far more personal, something that could fracture marriages and friendships in a single upload. Emotions ran high as longtime supporters of both women went to war online, picking sides with hashtags and reaction videos, each convinced they were defending the right version of the story. When court recessed for the day, insiders say Rasheeda walked out first, sunglasses on, lips pressed into a thin line, refusing to answer questions as cameras followed her every step, while Tasha lingered behind, allegedly smiling at no one in particular, as if she knew the real drama hadn't even started yet. Later that night, the internet nearly broke when Tasha went live again, her voice lower, slower, more deliberate, saying she hadn't even scratched the surface, that what people saw in court was just the appetizer, and fans are shocked she would tease something so explosive with such calm confidence. She claimed the flash drive wasn't about revenge, it was about receipts, about years of whispered conversations and private moments that suddenly didn't feel so private anymore, and she said the hardest part wasn't facing Rasheeda in court, it was knowing families would be dragged into it, kids would hear rumors, and friends would be forced to choose sides whether they wanted to or not. That's when the tone shifted again, because behind all the drama, there was something darker, something heavier, and the room went quiet as viewers realized this wasn't just gossip anymore, it was a collision of public image and private truth. Behind closed doors, sources claim Rasheeda was furious, not panicked but controlled, the kind of anger that simmers instead of explodes, telling her inner circle that nothing on that drive could touch her, that she'd survived worse. But those same insiders admit there was tension, late-night phone calls, emergency meetings, and a sense that the ground under everyone's feet wasn't as solid as it used to be. Emotions ran high within her family too, with some urging silence, others pushing for a public response, and a few allegedly questioning whether ignoring the storm would only make it stronger. As days passed, fragments of the story leaked in whispers and half-sentences, someone claiming they'd heard audio, someone else swearing they'd seen screenshots, and with every rumor, the divide between fans grew wider, some accusing Tasha of crossing a moral line, others accusing Rasheeda of hiding behind lawyers and silence. The family was left divided not just publicly but privately, dinners turning awkward, conversations stopping mid-sentence when certain names were mentioned, and everyone waiting for the moment when the flash drive's contents would no longer be a mystery. Then came the night everything felt like it tipped, when Tasha posted a cryptic message hinting that court was only one battlefield and online was another, and that's where the real exposure would happen. Fans are shocked at how fearless she sounded, almost daring anyone to stop what was coming next, and as notifications lit up phones around the world, one thing became painfully clear: this story was far from over, and the moment part 1 of this saga closed, the next chapter was already bleeding into it, unstoppable and louder than ever. The next morning arrived with a strange calm that felt fake, like the quiet before a storm everyone knew was coming but no one could stop, and while the public only saw social media posts and reaction videos, behind the scenes emotions ran high as phones rang non-stop and private group chats lit up with panic, strategy, and denial. Tasha knew exactly what she was doing by staying silent for just a little too long, because silence makes people fill the gaps themselves, and fans are shocked by how quickly theories turned into beliefs, and beliefs turned into accusations that spread faster than any official statement ever could. Inside Rasheeda's circle, the pressure was building, not from strangers online but from people she trusted, people who started asking careful questions instead of offering blind loyalty, and that subtle shift was the most dangerous part of all. Sources whispered that one family meeting turned heated when someone dared to ask what exactly was on that flash drive, and the room reportedly went still, the kind of stillness that tells you the question hit too close to home. Emotions ran high as Rasheeda allegedly snapped back that none of it mattered, that Tasha was bluffing, but even as she said it, there were eyes in the room that didn't fully believe her. Meanwhile, Tasha finally broke her silence with a voice memo that circulated like wildfire before it was ever officially posted, her tone calm but sharp as she claimed she never wanted it to get this messy, but once her name was dragged into legal paperwork, she refused to go down quietly. She hinted that the flash drive held conversations that contradicted public narratives, moments where masks slipped and real intentions were revealed, and fans are shocked by how personal it all sounded, like this wasn't just about headlines, it was about pride, power, and control. The internet reacted exactly how you'd expect, with some calling Tasha brave, others calling her reckless, and a loud group insisting Rasheeda owed the public nothing, but even among defenders, cracks started to show. Emotions ran high in live chats as longtime fans admitted they felt confused, torn between loyalty and curiosity, and that internal conflict became part of the drama itself. People weren't just choosing sides anymore, they were questioning their own assumptions, replaying old clips, old interviews, and old moments that suddenly felt different in hindsight. Behind closed doors, lawyers scrambled, not just to prepare for court but to manage perception, because everyone knew that in this era, public opinion could be just as damaging as a legal ruling. Rasheeda's team reportedly urged her to stay quiet, to let the storm burn itself out, but that strategy came at a cost, because every hour of silence made the flash drive feel more real, more dangerous. The family was left divided again when some believed a strong denial was necessary, while others feared saying anything would open doors that could never be closed. Then came the unexpected twist that nobody saw coming, when a former associate, someone both women had crossed paths with years ago, allegedly reached out to multiple bloggers hinting that the flash drive was only part of a much bigger puzzle. Emotions ran high as screenshots of vague messages surfaced, fueling speculation that there were backups, copies, or even witnesses ready to talk if pushed. Fans are shocked at how quickly the narrative expanded from one device to an entire network of secrets, and suddenly everyone wondered if this was less about exposure and more about leverage. Tasha addressed the rumors without confirming or denying them, saying only that people should be careful assuming they know the full story, because assumptions have a way of collapsing when facts finally speak. Her confidence rattled people, especially when she added that court dates come and go, but the internet never forgets. That single line was clipped, reposted, and debated endlessly, with some calling it a threat and others calling it a warning. Emotions ran high as even neutral viewers admitted they felt uneasy, like they were watching something spiral beyond anyone's control. Rasheeda, for her part, finally made a move, stepping out in public with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, posing for photos as if nothing was wrong, but insiders say the performance took effort. Later that night, a short statement was released claiming false narratives were being spread and that the truth would come out in due time, but fans are shocked at how vague it was, how carefully it avoided specifics, and how it seemed designed to calm rather than convince. The reaction was mixed at best, with some relieved to hear something and others more suspicious than ever. As days blurred together, the drama seeped into every corner of both women's lives, affecting business deals, friendships, and even casual interactions, because once doubt is planted, it spreads quietly and relentlessly. Emotions ran high when reports surfaced that at least one longtime friend had distanced themselves, choosing privacy over proximity to the chaos, and that silent departure spoke volumes. The family was left divided once more, not by loud arguments this time, but by distance, unanswered calls, and carefully worded texts that avoided saying too much. By the time the next court date loomed on the calendar, the story had evolved into something bigger than either Tasha or Rasheeda, becoming a cautionary tale about power and exposure in the digital age. Fans are shocked by how quickly admiration turned into scrutiny, and scrutiny into suspicion, and as the night before court settled in, there was a sense that whatever happened next would change everything, because the flash drive was no longer just evidence, it was a symbol, and its shadow stretched far into the next chapter of this unfolding drama. The night before court felt endless, and nobody involved slept much, because anticipation has a way of turning hours into something heavy and unbearable, and while fans refreshed timelines looking for clues, inside both camps emotions ran high in very different ways. Tasha was reportedly calm, almost eerily so, telling those close to her that she'd already made peace with whatever came next, because once the truth is set in motion, you can't chase it back down. That confidence unsettled even her supporters, some of whom wondered whether she was underestimating the power of the machine she was challenging. Across town, Rasheeda's house was said to be tense, not loud, not explosive, but tight with unspoken thoughts and unfinished sentences. Sources claim family members moved around each other carefully, like one wrong word could trigger an argument nobody was ready to have. Emotions ran high when someone suggested again that addressing the rumors directly might be the only way to regain control, but the suggestion was shut down quickly, and that shutdown reportedly created a crack that everyone felt but nobody acknowledged. When morning finally came, the courthouse steps became a magnet for cameras and spectators, and fans are shocked by how quickly a legal proceeding turned into a spectacle. Whispers spread that something unexpected was about to happen, that today wouldn't go the way anyone predicted, and that sense of looming chaos made every movement feel dramatic, every glance suspicious. Tasha arrived first again, walking with purpose, head high, carrying nothing visible this time, which only fueled speculation about where the real power was being kept. Rasheeda arrived moments later, flanked by her team, expression unreadable, but observers swear there was a flicker of irritation when she noticed the crowd's reaction, because for the first time, the energy wasn't fully on her side. Emotions ran high as people shouted questions, some supportive, some accusatory, and the mix of cheers and murmurs created a sound that was impossible to ignore. Inside, the tension followed them through security and into the courtroom, settling like a fog that made everything feel slower and sharper at the same time. As proceedings began, attention turned back to the flash drive, not physically present in the room but omnipresent in every argument, every objection, every carefully chosen word. Tasha's legal team referenced it indirectly, framing it as corroboration rather than a weapon, while Rasheeda's side worked tirelessly to minimize its importance, calling it circumstantial and misleading. Emotions ran high when a judge questioned the relevance of certain materials, prompting a visible reaction from both sides, and fans watching later would dissect those expressions frame by frame, searching for meaning. Outside the courtroom, the internet was doing what it does best, amplifying every rumor, every leaked detail, every anonymous tip sent to bloggers hungry for exclusives. Fans are shocked by how quickly a supposed snippet of audio began circulating, claimed by some to be from the flash drive, though its authenticity was immediately questioned. Still, once it was out there, it couldn't be erased, and the damage, real or imagined, began to spread. Tasha addressed the leak indirectly during a brief pause, saying that people should be careful consuming fragments without context, because half-truths can be more dangerous than lies. The statement was interpreted 100 different ways, with supporters praising her restraint and critics accusing her of manipulation. Emotions ran high as debates raged over whether she was trying to slow the narrative or subtly guide it, and that uncertainty kept everyone hooked. Rasheeda's camp reacted swiftly, issuing takedown requests and denouncing the audio as fabricated, but the effort seemed to have the opposite effect, drawing more attention to it. Fans are shocked at how quickly control slipped, because the harder they pushed back, the more people wanted to see what was being hidden. Within her inner circle, frustration reportedly boiled over, with at least one heated exchange breaking out over strategy, and that internal discord added another layer of vulnerability to an already fragile situation. As the day wore on, the courtroom drama gave way to a quieter but no less intense aftermath, with both sides retreating to regroup. Emotions ran high when word spread that additional hearings were likely, prolonging the ordeal and keeping the story alive longer than anyone anticipated. Some fans expressed exhaustion, others excitement, and a few admitted they felt uneasy about how invested they'd become, realizing real lives were being affected by what had become entertainment. That evening, Tasha went live again, not to reveal anything new, but to speak about pressure, about being painted as a villain for refusing to stay silent, and about the cost of telling a story nobody wants to hear. Her voice cracked just enough to feel real, and fans are shocked by how vulnerable she sounded, a sharp contrast to the confidence she'd shown earlier. Emotions ran high as supporters flooded the chat with encouragement, while detractors accused her of playing the victim. Rasheeda remained silent that night, and the silence was deafening. Speculation filled the void, with theories ranging from legal advice to emotional exhaustion, and each theory carried its own weight. The family was left divided again, not just in opinion but in approach, as some believed the quiet was strategic while others feared it was being interpreted as weakness. By the time midnight passed, one thing was undeniable: the story had reached a point of no return. The flash drive, whether fully revealed or not, had already altered perceptions, strained relationships, and ignited a cycle of reaction and counter-reaction that showed no signs of slowing. Fans are shocked by how quickly admiration turned into doubt and doubt into obsession, and as the screen faded to black on that long day, the drama didn't pause, it simply took a breath, preparing to surge forward into whatever chaos awaited next. By the following morning, the energy online felt heavier, like everyone sensed the next move would change the balance completely, and while fans refreshed feeds looking for leaks, behind closed doors emotions ran high as damage control meetings stretched on for hours with no clear solution. Whispers claimed that the flash drive had now become more than evidence, it had turned into leverage, and that realization alone shifted how people spoke, how they moved, and who they trusted. Nothing felt casual anymore, not a text message, not a phone call, not even a simple hello, because everyone feared being recorded, misquoted, or dragged into a narrative they didn't choose. Tasha stayed quiet longer than expected, and that silence worked like gasoline on speculation, because fans are shocked by how quickly absence turns into meaning. Some said she was regrouping, others claimed she was negotiating, and a few insisted she was waiting for someone else to make a mistake first. Emotions ran high when a well-known blogger hinted that pressure was being applied from unexpected places, suggesting that this drama had reached people far outside the public eye, people with influence who preferred to stay invisible. Inside Rasheeda's world, the strain reportedly began to show in subtle ways: cancelled appearances, delayed meetings, and a noticeable distance between her and people she once leaned on heavily. Sources whispered that one conversation with a close family member turned emotional when concerns were raised about how this could impact the next generation, and that mention alone shifted the tone from defensive to fearful. The family was left divided again, not because they disagreed on loyalty, but because they disagreed on risk, and how much was too much to protect an image. The turning point came unexpectedly when an anonymous account posted a cryptic thread claiming that the flash drive wasn't the original source, but a backup created after trust was already broken. Fans are shocked by how quickly that theory spread, because it suggested foresight, planning, and a level of calculation that reframed the entire story. Emotions ran high as people revisited past interactions between Tasha and Rasheeda, analyzing smiles, side eyes, and moments that once seemed harmless but now felt loaded with hidden meaning. Tasha finally returned, not with receipts, not with audio, but with a story, explaining how alliances shift when power dynamics change, and how people often rewrite history to protect themselves. She spoke about being underestimated, about being treated like noise instead of a threat, and how that dismissal gave her the time and space to gather what others ignored. Fans are shocked by how methodical she sounded, because it stripped away the image of impulsive drama and replaced it with something colder and more intentional. The reaction was immediate and intense, with supporters praising her clarity and critics accusing her of narrative manipulation. Emotions ran high as debates broke out over intent versus impact, with some arguing that truth justifies exposure, while others questioned the morality of dragging private matters into public view. The family was left divided in public opinion too, with relatives of both sides quietly pulling back from social media, choosing silence over being misinterpreted. Behind the scenes, sources claim legal teams began preparing for the possibility that not everything could be contained, shifting strategies from prevention to mitigation. That alone suggested an acknowledgement that some level of exposure was inevitable, and fans are shocked by how quickly the tone shifted from denial to damage control. Conversations reportedly centered around timing, wording, and how to minimize fallout rather than how to stop it entirely. Rasheeda's silence continued, but it was no longer empty, it was heavy, layered with expectation and scrutiny. Every public sighting became a headline, every expression analyzed, every outfit interpreted as a statement. Emotions ran high when she was seen briefly interacting with someone connected to the case, sparking rumors of behind-the-scenes negotiations that neither side would confirm. The speculation created a new wave of tension, because if talks were happening, it meant both sides recognized the stakes were higher than pride. The internet, meanwhile, showed no signs of slowing down, with reaction channels milking every rumor and fans turning into amateur investigators, convinced they could piece together the truth faster than the courts ever would. Fans are shocked by how invested they've become, staying up late, arguing with strangers, and defending people who don't know they exist. Emotions ran high as some began to question whether the spectacle had gone too far, whether lines had been crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. Late one night, a short clip surfaced of Tasha laughing softly during a private moment, saying that people only see the explosion, never the build-up, and that line stuck with viewers longer than any accusation. It reframed the chaos as something inevitable rather than reckless, and the shift in perception was subtle but powerful. The family was left divided once more, not by new information, but by interpretation, because perspective had become the battleground now. As the days continued to blur, one truth became impossible to ignore: this was no longer just about who was right or wrong, it was about control of narrative, legacy, and survival in a world where everything can be recorded and nothing ever truly disappears. Fans are shocked by how deeply this story has embedded itself into the culture, turning a flash drive into a symbol of exposure and a warning of what happens when private lives collide with public platforms. And as this chapter quietly folded into the next without pause or resolution, the sense lingered that the most personal revelations were still waiting, just out of reach, ready to surface when no one was prepared for them. The pressure reached a breaking point when a sudden shift happened that nobody publicly acknowledged but everyone felt, because behind-the-scenes communication between the two camps reportedly stopped completely, and that silence was far more aggressive than any statement could have been. Emotions ran high as insiders whispered that whatever informal channels once existed were officially burned, and that meant everything from this point forward would be strategic, documented, and potentially explosive. Fans are shocked by how quickly cooperation turned into cold distance, because it signaled that the story was no longer drifting, it was being steered. Tasha's presence online became more calculated, with fewer appearances but sharper words, each sentence sounding like it had been weighed carefully before being released. She spoke about accountability without naming names, about patterns without listing examples, and that ambiguity drove people wild. Emotions ran high as viewers tried to decode her tone, her pauses, even her facial expressions, convinced that meaning was hidden in every breath. Some felt empowered by her refusal to spoon-feed details, while others accused her of dangling chaos for engagement. Rasheeda, meanwhile, finally showed visible cracks in her composure, not through words but through absence. Scheduled commitments quietly disappeared, and when she did appear, her energy felt guarded, almost distant. Fans are shocked by how different the vibe felt compared to her usual confidence, and that shift alone fueled more speculation than any confirmed leak ever could. Emotions ran high when a brief interaction with a fan was captured on video, her smile tight, her eyes tired, and that single clip became a symbol of strain that spread everywhere. Inside her inner circle, sources claim the debate was no longer about whether to speak, but about how much to reveal if forced. That internal conflict reportedly led to late-night arguments, raised voices, and at least one person walking away from a meeting entirely. The family was left divided again, not along lines of loyalty, but along lines of fear versus defiance, with some believing transparency was the only way out and others convinced it would only invite more destruction. Then came another twist that shifted the conversation entirely, when a legal document allegedly surfaced online, partially redacted but enough to confirm that the flash drive had been referenced in more detail than the public previously knew. Fans are shocked by how quickly screenshots spread, with amateur analysts highlighting phrases and speculating about what had been removed. Emotions ran high as people realized this wasn't just rumor anymore, it was a paper trail, and paper trails have a way of outlasting denials. Tasha did not confirm the leak, but she didn't deny it either, instead warning people that context matters and that selective reading can be misleading. Her restraint frustrated critics but energized supporters, who saw it as proof she was playing a long game. Emotions ran high in live discussions as viewers debated whether patience was wisdom or manipulation, and that moral gray area became a central theme of the drama. Rasheeda's camp responded with urgency, dismissing the document as misinterpreted and incomplete, but the explanation did little to slow the momentum. Fans are shocked by how quickly the narrative escaped official control, because once people believe they're being kept from the full story, curiosity turns into obsession. Within hours, older interviews and statements were resurfaced, dissected, and reframed to fit the evolving storyline. The emotional toll became impossible to ignore when reports surfaced that relationships unrelated to the case were being strained simply by proximity. Friends stopped returning calls, collaborators delayed projects, and neutral parties distanced themselves to avoid being pulled into the chaos. Emotions ran high as people realized that fallout doesn't discriminate, it spreads outward, touching anyone close enough to feel the heat. The family was left divided yet again, not by public drama, but by private consequences that never make headlines. Tasha addressed this ripple effect directly during a brief appearance, acknowledging that collateral damage is real and painful, but insisting that silence can be just as harmful in the long run. Her words resonated with some and angered others, creating another wave of debate about responsibility and intent. Fans are shocked by how philosophical the conversation became, shifting from gossip to questions about power, truth, and the cost of exposure. Rasheeda's silence finally broke in a subtle way, not through an interview or a post, but through a carefully chosen action that insiders say was meant to signal strength. She appeared publicly aligned with people known for loyalty and discretion, sending a message without saying a word. Emotions ran high as observers interpreted the move as a show of unity, though skeptics questioned whether it was genuine or performative. As days passed, the story stopped feeling like a straight line and more like a maze, with dead ends, hidden doors, and sudden turns. Fans are shocked by how much uncertainty still remained despite the volume of conversation, and that uncertainty kept everyone watching. Emotions ran high because resolution felt both close and impossibly far away at the same time. Late one evening, Tasha hinted that the next phase would not be loud, but decisive, and that line alone sent speculation into overdrive. People wondered whether that meant court, negotiation, or something entirely unexpected. The family was left divided in anticipation now, bracing for impact without knowing where it would land. As this chapter bled seamlessly into the next, the atmosphere shifted from chaotic to ominous, because when drama quiets down instead of exploding, it usually means something is being prepared behind the scenes. Fans are shocked by how still everything suddenly felt, and that stillness carried a weight that suggested whatever came next would not just escalate the story, it would redefine it completely. The quiet didn't last, it never does, because silence in a situation like this is just pressure building with nowhere to go, and when it finally released, it did so in a way that caught everyone off guard. Emotions ran high when word began circulating that a private mediation attempt had quietly fallen apart, not because of money or pride, but because of trust. Fans are shocked by that detail, because it suggested there had been a moment where this all could have ended differently, a moment where both sides might have walked away without total destruction, and that missed opportunity made everything feel heavier. According to whispers from people close to the situation, the talks collapsed when it became clear that the flash drive represented more than proof, it represented control over the narrative, and neither side was willing to surrender that power. Tasha allegedly refused to offer guarantees of silence, while Rasheeda's camp reportedly demanded certainty that nothing further would surface. Emotions ran high as the realization set in that compromise wasn't possible, because compromise requires trust, and trust had already been burned beyond repair. Almost immediately after those talks failed, the internet sensed a shift, even before anything concrete happened. Fans are shocked by how intuitive collective attention can be, because timelines grew restless, engagement spiked, and speculation returned with renewed intensity. People could feel that something had changed behind the curtain, and that feeling alone was enough to reignite the fire. Tasha re-emerged with a tone that felt final, not loud, not chaotic, but resolved. She spoke about closing chapters and standing firm when pressured to rewrite your own experiences for the comfort of others. Emotions ran high as listeners connected those words to the failed mediation, seeing them as confirmation without confirmation, and that subtlety made the message hit harder. Supporters praised her strength, critics accused her of stubbornness, and the divide widened yet again. Rasheeda's response came indirectly through action rather than words, as legal filings moved forward with renewed urgency. Fans are shocked by how quickly the situation snapped back into adversarial mode, because it erased any illusion that reconciliation was possible. Emotions ran high as observers realized the gloves were officially off, and whatever restraint existed before had been replaced with strategy and survival instincts. Inside Rasheeda's family, the strain reportedly reached a deeply personal level, with arguments no longer centered on optics but on emotional exhaustion. Sources claim one conversation ended in tears when someone admitted they no longer recognized the version of life they were living, consumed by headlines and suspicion. The family was left divided not because of loyalty, but because everyone was processing the fallout differently, some wanting to fight harder, others just wanting peace. As filings progressed, rumors intensified that additional material related to the flash drive might be introduced, not necessarily by Tasha directly, but through legal processes that couldn't be controlled once initiated. Fans are shocked by how little agency anyone seemed to have at that point, because the machine was moving on its own. Emotions ran high as people realized that even if both sides wanted to stop, momentum had already taken over. Tasha acknowledged this loss of control in a rare candid moment, admitting that once truth enters formal systems, it no longer belongs to the person who carried it. Her honesty struck a nerve, reframing her actions as something irreversible rather than reckless. Fans are shocked by how human she sounded, stripped of bravado, and that vulnerability complicated the narrative in ways no dramatic accusation ever could. Rasheeda's silence returned, but this time it felt intentional rather than defensive. Observers noted a shift in how her circle moved, more unified, more disciplined, as if bracing for impact rather than trying to avoid it. Emotions ran high as supporters interpreted this as strength, while critics saw it as preparation for damage control, and both interpretations fueled the conversation further. The wider community began to feel the weight of the ongoing drama, with commentators openly questioning whether the spectacle had crossed into something harmful. Emotions ran high as debates turned inward, asking why audiences crave exposure and destruction, and what responsibility viewers carry when real lives are involved. Fans are shocked by how self-aware the discourse became, even as engagement continued to climb. Late one night, a brief but powerful statement circulated, attributed to someone close to the situation, saying that once the flash drive existed, the outcome was never about winning, only about surviving. That line resonated deeply, because it captured the essence of everything unfolding. Emotions ran high as people realized this story was no longer about vindication, it was about endurance. As time stretched on, the sense of inevitability grew stronger. Court dates loomed, alliances hardened, and the emotional cost continued to rise. The family was left divided yet again, not by new revelations, but by the cumulative weight of everything that had already happened. By the end of this phase, it was clear that whatever final act awaited would not offer clean closure or satisfying answers. Fans are shocked by how deeply invested they've become in a story with no heroes and no easy resolution. And as this chapter dissolved seamlessly into the next, the atmosphere was no longer chaotic or even ominous, it was heavy with acceptance, because everyone involved, and everyone watching, seemed to understand that the fallout from the flash drive would echo long after the headlines moved on. Acceptance didn't bring peace, it brought clarity, and clarity made everything sharper, because once everyone understood this wasn't going to end quietly, every move started to feel intentional and loaded. Emotions ran high as court preparations intensified, with insiders saying both sides were no longer trying to outmaneuver each other publicly, but to brace themselves privately for whatever would surface next. Fans are shocked by how the narrative shifted from speculation to expectation, as if the audience collectively leaned forward, knowing impact was inevitable. Tasha's demeanor changed again, quieter but firmer, like someone who had already grieved the outcome and stepped into resolve. She spoke less about others and more about herself, about the weight of carrying information that could upend lives, and how isolation becomes part of the process when you refuse to back down. Emotions ran high as some viewers recognized the loneliness in her voice, while others dismissed it as performance, and that split only deepened the divide. On the other side, Rasheeda's world continued to tighten, not collapsing, but contracting, as if she was pulling everything close to protect it. Sources claimed trust became a scarce currency, conversations shortened, and decisions centralized. Fans are shocked by how little leaked during this phase, interpreting the silence as discipline rather than fear. Emotions ran high as supporters framed it as strength under pressure, while critics argued it was the calm before a reveal no one wanted to face. The flash drive itself took on an almost mythical status online, discussed like an object with intent rather than a device holding data. People argued over what it symbolized: truth, revenge, leverage, or survival, and those arguments reflected deeper beliefs about power and accountability. Emotions ran high because everyone projected their own values onto it, turning it into a mirror instead of evidence. Tension peaked when rumors surfaced that parts of the material might become public through indirect means, not leaks, not live streams, but through testimony. Fans are shocked by that possibility, because it suggested the story could spill out in fragments, uncontrollable and irreversible. Emotions ran high as commentators debated whether that would finally satisfy public curiosity or only open new wounds. Tasha addressed those rumors cautiously, saying some stories don't arrive as explosions, they arrive as echoes, and once they start, you can't tell them where to stop. That line lingered, shared widely, because it captured the dread hanging over everything. Fans are shocked by how poetic the language became in a situation rooted in conflict, and that contrast made the stakes feel even heavier. Rasheeda's inner circle reportedly focused on unity, drawing clear lines between allies and outsiders. Emotions ran high when at least one longtime connection was quietly cut off, not with drama, but with distance, and that move signaled how serious the situation had become. The family was left divided once more, not by public opinion, but by emotional bandwidth, as everyone processed the same storm in different ways. As the next court appearance approached, the conversation shifted from what might be revealed to what could never be undone. Fans are shocked by how reflective the audience became, questioning whether exposure always equals justice, and whether some truths, once released, leave nothing but damage in their wake. Emotions ran high as these questions circulated without answers, hanging in the air like unfinished sentences. Tasha hinted that regardless of outcome, she would step back after this chapter closed, saying some battles cost too much to fight twice. Her words felt final, and that finality unsettled people who had come to see her as unmovable. Fans are shocked by the idea that this saga might permanently change her path, not as punishment but as consequence. Rasheeda, still largely silent, made one subtle move that didn't go unnoticed, appearing composed, present, and deliberate at a public moment that mattered. Emotions ran high as supporters took it as reassurance, while critics read it as preparation, and once again, interpretation became the battlefield. By the time this phase reached its end, the atmosphere was no longer charged with chaos or even suspense, it was heavy with inevitability. Fans are shocked by how the story matured from scandal into something closer to tragedy, where no outcome felt like a victory. The family was left divided in quiet ways now, through fatigue rather than fury, and that quiet carried its own kind of pain. As this part of the saga faded seamlessly into what would come next, there was a shared understanding among everyone watching that the flash drive had already done its damage, regardless of what it ultimately revealed. Reputations had shifted, trust had eroded, and the illusion of control had been shattered. And in that uneasy stillness, the question wasn't what would happen next, but how anyone involved would ever fully move on once the final echo of this drama finally faded. If you've made it this far, then you already know this story isn't just another piece of internet drama, it's a collision of power, secrets, and consequences that refuses to stay contained, and now it's your turn to be part of the conversation. Fans are shocked by how deep this situation runs, how many layers are still unresolved, and how one flash drive managed to expose fractures that were hiding in plain sight for years. Nothing about this feels finished, and that uneasy feeling in your gut is exactly why this story keeps pulling you back in. You've watched emotions run high, you've seen silence speak louder than statements, and you've witnessed how quickly admiration can turn into scrutiny when narratives collide. The family was left divided, not once, but over and over again, and even now the question lingers, was this about truth, control, survival, or something far more personal that may never fully be explained? Every move from here on out carries weight, and every decision will leave a mark that can't simply be deleted or ignored. Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe the flash drive was ever meant to surface, or was it always destined to become public the moment trust was broken? Do you think silence was strength, or did it allow the narrative to spiral out of control? And most importantly, where do you draw the line between exposure and destruction in a world where everything can be recorded and nothing ever truly disappears? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story doesn't live in courtrooms and live streams alone, it lives in the conversations people are afraid to have out loud. If this saga has kept you glued, if you found yourself questioning motives, replaying moments, or rethinking everything you thought you knew, make sure you hit like on this video, because it lets us know you want more deep dives into the stories everyone else is afraid to unpack. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because this isn't the end, not even close. As developments unfold and new twists emerge, you'll want to be right here when the next chapter drops. Share this video with someone who's been following the drama, or someone who thinks they know the full story, because sometimes it takes a different perspective to see what's really at stake. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update, because in a situation like this, timing matters, and the next move could change everything all over again. This story has shown us that fame doesn't shield anyone from consequences, that loyalty can crack under pressure, and that once a secret is backed up and stored, it has a life of its own. Fans are shocked not just by what may come out next, but by how much has already changed without a single definitive answer. So before you scroll away, ask yourself one last thing: if you were holding that flash drive, knowing what it could do, would you stay silent, or would you press play and let the world decide? Let us know in the comments. Keep the conversation respectful but real, and remember, the truth doesn't always arrive loudly, sometimes it echoes.